Shall we start? Mahalo. Welcome to our Sunday talk story. My name is Serge Kahili King, and I represent a nonprofit organization called Aloha International. We like to begin with blessing. Aloha.
Aloha. So this song is very beautiful, and I want you to go inside and imagine yourself on a sunrise morning overlooking the crater and breathing in the beauty. Aloha kalai kalapene kalapu no ikamaka kalehua uahiolani pele uamali he nawe ike nakapoki Aloha e alai e aloha e alai e aloha e alai e pele. In a moment, breathe in the beauty and send that beauty around the world. Mahalo.
Mahalo. All right. We'd like to begin talking about our topic with a story. Now, we'll get into the topic, which is related because the topic is how to manage fear. And before I can tell you how to manage fear, we've got to have an understanding of fear itself. Okay? Because a lot of people don't really understand it. So, let's look at it in three ways, Let's look at what actually happens when fear happens. And when we talk about terrible fear, it's only the same thing happening more intensely. So, first of all, physiologically. Physiologically, fear is expressed in the body with a tightening of muscles and a rush of adrenaline. It's the same kind of an effect you would get if you were preparing to do something very strong, very quickly, like starting to run, or starting to jump, or starting to do something. Okay, it's that same kind of thing. Tightening of the muscles, getting you ready, and the adrenaline rush to give you the energy to do something. That's the physical part. The emotional part is expressed by a feeling of anticipation that something important is about to happen. And I'll tell you in a moment why I put it exactly that way. Okay? But that's the emotional part of fear. The mental part is expressed by imagining that the important thing that's about to happen is something bad. That's where that comes from. Now, the imagination can be based on something that's in front of you, like a car or a bus, on its way to running you down if you have enough time to look. But it can also be based on memories of sight, of sound, and or touch, also related to something bad. Now, there's an old thing in psychology that they used to talk about, and especially with talking about fear and the nature of human beings in relation to fear. And it was called the tiger in the bush. I'm not sure how many of you have heard about it, But it's like this. And of course, the only reason somebody would be afraid of a tiger in the bush is if they'd had experience of some kind, maybe in a movie, with a tiger. So it doesn't have to be personal experience. You see a tiger ripping somebody up in a movie, that can create a very strong memory. Well, the tiger in the bush phenomena in psychology is that if you're standing here and let's say between 20 and 30 and 50 yards away, there's a bush, and you hear a noise, you're going to, and you become afraid, you'll have the same reaction whether there's actually a tiger behind there or whether there isn't. If you think there's a tiger behind there, you'll have exactly the same physiological, emotional reaction as you would if there really were a tiger back there. Okay? That's why the mental part plays such an important role in the experience of fear. Okay? So when we say we're feeling fear, what we're really feeling is the combination of tension and adrenaline, anticipation, and imagination, all together. However, when we have a habit of interpreting particular reactions as meaning fear, like the tension and the adrenaline and the anticipation, if we get into a habit of that means fear, we don't even need the imagination anymore. I had to be, when my mother was still alive, I had to be very careful when I was calling her up if I had some good news or if I get too excited. Because if something really good happened and I'd call her up and I'd say, "Mom," her first thing she would say was, "What's wrong?" That's the very first thing. Excitement meant to her something fearful, something bad. And I never remember any time when that didn't happen, when she expected something good. The way she was brought up, that's what her life experience was, and somehow she developed this habit. If there's too much energy, it means something bad has happened. Okay? So we can do that. Didn't take any imagination. I didn't have to say any words at all. Okay? That was her interpretation of those initial feelings. Okay. So naturally, this can get in our way, and we'll talk about more than that. If we can physically, here's some ways, here's some things that can help. If we can physically relax our muscles when fear happens, if we can get the mind to do that for the body, if we can physically relax our muscles when fear happens, the fear disappears. We cannot experience fear with relaxed muscles. That's an amazing phenomenon, but you can try it yourself sometimes. Sit someplace and be very relaxed. You can do it now if you wish, and get your muscles as relaxed as possible. Don't tense a single muscle and try and get afraid. It can't happen. There's got to be that tension as part of the process. Okay? So if you can train yourself to do that, it takes a lot of practice, but it is something that can be learned. Okay? Because part of what you're going to have to do is be aware of not only the tension, be aware of the difference between what it feels like to have tension and to be relaxed. So it takes both of those, takes that kind of learning awareness. But it can be done. Now, if we can, another way, if we can focus our emotional energy into the present moment when fear happens, if we can shift the focus and put our energy into sensory awareness, the fear will disappear. Because fear is about anticipation. And if you bring yourself totally here, there's no anticipation and there's no fear. Right? This takes training and practice. The problem is that these techniques that I just shared can all be messed up by the mind. But here's the good part. It's a lot easier to learn how to change your mind than it is to learn how to change your body or your emotions. People get into a lot of fear states by asking the question and imagining the terrible consequences of what if? What if something bad happens? I've shared this before, but not for a while, so I'll share it again. One time I was giving a class on Kauai, and a woman came in, one of the students came in, and all in an uproar and feelings like panic and in terrible state. And what happened? What happened? I almost got hit by a car. And she was going on and on and on. And of course, what her mind was doing, what if I had been hit by a car? And imagining all of that stuff. And we were watching her and listening to her, and I held her on the shoulder and got her attention. I said, wait, look around you. Where are you? Oh, okay, I'm here, right? I said, okay, you weren't hit, were you? Look at your body. Got any sore spots? No. Okay. Everything's okay, right? Big sigh. Oh, yes. Now, I broke the what if in a different way by getting her into sensory awareness, but it was the same problem. And it's a trap, that what if. It's a trap if you don't make a plan to do something about it. You see, a lot of this happens even, you see it in movies all the time. Somebody makes a plan. What if it doesn't work? Well, make a new plan, all right? Come on. But they're immediately going into the what if, and then everything's falling apart and falling down. But if you don't make a new plan, if you don't have something to do if it doesn't work, then what you've got to do, what we use is the positive what if. Well, since we're making it up anyway, what if something good happens? What are you going to do then? And what's amazing, I've done this so many times with people, fear disappears. Oh, wow. Because they got locked into the tension and the thinking, and it was all feeding back on itself. But once you start to do the positive what if, you have shifted to a positive memory or a positive anticipation of some kind, and the automatic effect of that is to slow down the adrenaline, relax the muscles, and the fear disappears. So that's a good one if you can remember that one. Okay, very simple to do. One of them I like very much is something that I developed called the 1-inch belief. Now, the 1-inch belief is a very short phrase, 5 words or less, that represents something you absolutely believe is true. And now this only takes a little practice. You have to pick something, and it doesn't have to be the same thing all the time, but usually if you can pick something that you don't doubt and just repeat it enough or be familiar enough with it so that it can come to mind when you need it, this is amazingly effective. It would be something like, I'll tell you how it works in a moment, but it would be something like, depending on the individual, it's going to be something you believe. The sky is blue. Another one might be, love is good. I am here right now. That's 5. Okay. If you can find something that you have no doubts about, it's almost like magic, because when no matter what state you're in, if you begin repeating that truth to yourself, your body will relax, you'll feel centered, the emotions will calm down, the fear will disappear. Because your subconscious, let's call it that for the moment, feels a sense of great security that there is something that is true, and it has no doubt about it. It does something to your whole system. It's a very powerful technique. If you're a therapist, this is wonderful for helping people get out of panic states and other kinds of emotionally traumatic states very quickly. Okay? I call it the 1-inch belief because I borrowed the term from a martial arts movement from Bruce Lee. He had a movement where he would gather all of his energy in his fist and move it 1 inch and be able to knock somebody away. And I tested it on my oldest son one time. It really worked. Okay? I had him with a big telephone book in front of him, and I thought he would just go back a couple feet, but fortunately it was in the kitchen, the floor was not really hard, and he flew back 5 feet and landed on his back. Didn't hurt him at all. But, wow. Well, then something short and powerful is what I took from that. And that's what this few words of truth, your truth, can do for you. Now there's one more thing we have here. It's called the positive thought form. This is imagining yourself surrounded by something or something next to you that gives you a sense of or feeling of confidence. Now when I say something like this, a lot of people start thinking of something called the white light of protection. This is imagining a white light around you that protects you from all bad stuff. I do not recommend that. All that does is reinforce the fear. What we would recommend would be a white, doesn't have to be white, doesn't matter what color it is, or even a color. It could be a field, a light of confidence, a light of power, a light of strength, something like that is going to be far more effective. Okay? Far more effective than the protection thing. Okay? Now, it doesn't have to be that either. You can even imagine a nearby companion. Superman, Spider-Man, Wonder Woman, angels, something that you can really believe is good and helpful, and imagine that vividly, and you're what we call it cool, but it's your subconscious is going to relate to that. If you don't question it, it's going to relate to that as a source of power and strength and help, and it's going to calm down. Because the essence of fear is helplessness. That's what brings it on. And that's what makes the people, when they got so fearful that they're in panic and they can't move, it's a feeling of helplessness. And that's what you want to find some way, all these other things help you get out of. And so imagining companions is another way to do that. There are lots of other possibilities. These are just a few to get you started, but they really work. Finally, I just want to mention one thing at the end. I want to talk about the idea that fear is natural and can somehow protect us from harm. I entirely disagree with that. Human beings are so creative that they can make use of anything, including negative emotions, and they can make them work for them. That doesn't mean that they're natural or even necessary. That's just human creativity. Fear isn't natural. Fear has to be learned. Okay? Our natural inclination in times of danger is to either move out of the way or help somebody who's in danger. When you have a disaster, this is what people do. Not everybody. The people who have fear don't. But the ones who, they're so focused on the need for assistance or help of some kind that they just go and help. And if they have some fear, they don't let it overwhelm them. They focus on the need for help becomes much more important. And that gives them the strength and the energy and the courage to do something effective to change the situation. Okay? That's our natural inclination. Fear has to be learned, and not only learned, it has to be practiced. And when it does that, wow, then it really gets in the way of your life. And I hope some of these things that I've shared can help you change that. Because fear starts to die with the birth of skill and confidence.
How does love figure in as an antidote to fear?
Oh, sure, if you know how to love. See, you have to know how to love immediately and change that. The essence of, we talked about the essence of fear is helplessness. That helplessness comes from a sense of separation caused by the unrelieved tension in the body. Okay? Love is connection. And there can be tension in love, but it is tension release, tension release, tension release. Okay? If you don't have that release, you get stuck. Okay? So you can get the same equivalent of love from some of the things that I talked about. Connection with your sensory present, connection with your body by learning how to relax, or even your emotions. But if you can and if you have something or someone you love, like for instance, I talked about the people who go to help other people. Okay? That's a loving act. And they do that because they see a need. And the natural love that human beings have comes out and leads to the action. It's a feeling of connection that's there. Now, you can learn how to recall that, is a better word, okay, in times of high stress and get out of that stress very easily. But you have to know how to use love in that kind of a situation. So that's almost like an emotional learning process. What she said was that, love is a hard word because it means so many things to so many different people. Well, yeah, so we like to use love in the Hawaiian word, which is aloha. Because aloha means to share an experience face to face in the present moment. And love is the good part. I just share an experience. Let me share a happy experience because that's part of the word, aloha. And love is the good part of any relationship in this way of thinking. So when people try to add jealousy, jealousy comes from anger and fear. That's not love. Okay? Love is always connection, good connection. And so when you learn this way of thinking about love, then you don't have to get caught up in all that other kind of silliness, which is fear and tension and anger and stress. That's not love. Okay. All right, good. Stuart, would you please take the floor? Stuart's going to lead you through the healing blessing.
Aloha, everybody. Aloha. So everybody has a piece of nature of some sort. Right, good. Well, I invite you to take a look at it. Just look it over. See what you see. Look at the shape, the color, the irregularities, the symmetry, if any. Feel the weight of it. Feel how heavy it is, or not so heavy. But be mindful of its weight. And be as present as you can to the experience of holding this piece of nature. Be as present as you can to the experience of this piece of nature. And now I invite you to close your eyes and to be present to the experience of what's in your heart right now. Be present to your feelings in your heart, particularly to the things that you love, particularly to the people you love. Be present to the love of your friends. Be present to the love of your companions or partners. Be present to the love of family. And if you can, be present to the love of yourself. But be as exquisitely present to that love as you possibly can. And allow that love, that experience of love, to spread beyond your heart, out throughout your whole body. Let that love spread into every cell of your body. Let that love extend and grow beyond your body. Let your energy field be full of that very same love. And being present to that love, allow that love to extend, to fill this room, and to extend to every person in this room. Go ahead and let your love extend beyond this room to the whole town of Volcano and everyone in it. Let your love include everyone in Volcano. And let your love go down the hill on both sides, down into Ka'u and the people there, and down the hill, down to Mountain View and Kurdistown and Kayao, down into Puna and down into Hilo. Let your love include all the people there. And let your love spread out throughout the island and include all 180,000 people on the island of Hawaii. And let your love spread out across the ocean to the other islands, across the seas to the continents, and let your love circle the world and include everyone in it. And charge your love to heal wherever possible, to help heal everyone in the world who needs it, if possible. And charge your love to help heal all the time from this day forward. And enjoy and savor this wonderful feeling of sending love, or inviting the world into your love. A wonderful feeling of love. And ever so gently bring yourself back into this room. You can leave your love out in the world, but bring your attention back to this room, back to this little piece of nature in your hand. And before you put it back in the basket, Put a little bit of your life energy into it with your breath. That it may help others who hold it next. Mahalo.